Insert clever intro here. Hello, welcome.
Way to do it.
How's it going out there? Eric, how you doing? Good to see you.
Yeah.
It's as if this is the first time we've talked, right?
It's been a long time.
Look what I'm doing today. Huh? This is tea.
Look at what I'm doing today.
And you got nothing.
I think we've switched places.
You know what that means? I'm going to bring the joke.
All right. We'll see what you got today.
What's not a joke is taxes.
Yeah. And a lot's potentially changing with taxes coming up. There's a lot of potential things to look for in 2025 announcements there. But, we got to really focus on this because it's a question we always get. And I think that you have a view on this and kind of the way of putting it. And I have a different view, which just goes to show you that, it does depend on the person.
Totally.
And it's okay.
I might like red, you like blue, and it's okay. You know what I mean?
I don't even know where you keep getting this from. I don't know where this keeps coming from.
It's okay to see it this way. What we want to talk about, though, is what's best for you.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, this is all that matters. You can watch this video, you can watch Dave Ramsey, any other guys, whatever you want to do, but we need to figure it out for you because, truthfully, every situation is a little different.
Yep, 100%.
And, we did mention what we were talking about.
So,
besides taxes.
Well, the idea of Roth versus IRA.
Yeah, let's figure it out.
Pre-tax. So Roth IRA versus, traditional IRA, or if you want to go Roth 401k versus traditional 401k.
This is fun. I'm going to do this every time.
Isn't it nice? Isn't it relaxing just to be able to sip something and chill and just, have the conversation?
Yeah, I agree. Would you like me to start?
Yeah, I'd love for you to start. I know you've got a chart. I want to kind of see what you're working with here, and we'll go from there.
I've shared this before, but this is a breakdown. Don't let it scare you there. On the screen, you're going to see really a comparison with the current tax rates that we know. On the Y, it's not an axis, but on the Y side there, this is your tax rate while you're contributing. We don't know what account yet, just this is your tax rate. And then at the top is what we expect your retirement tax rate to be. And some people go, I have no idea. I don't know what it's going to be. All right, well, we start with your goal. What is it that you want to shoot for? Do you want your existing income in retirement? Do you want 3/4 of it or maybe 120% of it? So we start there. But what you can see here, I'm going to go through like one extreme example. If your current tax rate up at the top there is 10%, and you're 22 or something, right? And you're going to save a ton of money, through the rest of your life and when you retire. Maybe you are really good at saving. When you retire, if we assume your tax rate is 37%, then what we're showing there is you have an extreme advantage to using the Roth IRA. And that's not including anybody's age, that's just the difference in your tax rate. There's a 43% difference in the differences in money that you'll have in retirement by using the Roth IRA. So that's an extreme example.
I want to ask you real quick on this before you keep going. So because you've got your rates there, is that effective tax rate or is that just the federal bracket there? Because there is differences. Not that this example is going to change anything, but so for those that are kind of questioning like differences there, you have your federal income brackets. You've got your different tiers there.
10,
your 12, 22, 24, 32. So all these different tiers. That's where you're going to eventually get to. Your first, let's say 10,000 is taxed at one rate. Your next 10,000 is a different rate. So then your effective rate is kind of the average tax you're going to pay over everything versus your federal bracket is completely different. Your federal bracket's whatever you end up hitting at the top. So just because he says, you've got a 37% tax rate in retirement, that could be
hopefully you don't pay that much.
Your federal tax rate, which is the top of that. Your effective tax rate potentially could be much less, where it could be, let's say 25% if you average everything together there. So that's what I was kind of wanting to just ask and clarify.
It would be true on both sides. Now, I think the ratio of the between your effective and federal rate might be bigger the lower income you make. Is that probably true? Unless you're itemizing the devil out of your stuff. I don't know. But so it would work on both sides. You have a 10% federal tax rate right now, but your effective tax rate may be 6%. I don't know, whatever it comes in at. 37% in the future, but of course your effective rate would be lower. The point is to look at the outskirts of both of those.
Yeah.
Bottom left versus bottom right. The more extreme difference there is, the more easy it is really to make the decision between an IRA or using the Roth.
And for people that are watching that are like, well, I don't know how I would ever have that. But potentially there's the idea that maybe you're a lower income earner right this second, but maybe dad was a surgeon and is retired and has this large pre-tax account that potentially you're going to inherit, which could shove your bracket crazy high, especially with the way things work, where it's that 10-year rule. You'll have to withdraw it over 10 years. Well, if you're withdrawing that over 10 years and dad just happens to live to 90 and you live till 70, you're right on the cusp of your RMD years. If you didn't do Roth IRA, now you have all of these other dollars coming in. So there's so many wild cards that can be thrown into the mix here that I'm wanting to kind of present, because so many people get so like, stuck on, well, this or this, but it's like, well, did you think about this? Did you think about this? What about this? Where's this? Like there's a million different variables that are going to come into play here. And it's really just making sure you're doing the best you can with what you got today, because that's all we know.
Like literally when we finish this video, my next call is with someone who sold a business and they didn't just get a lump sum, they're getting paid out, right? And so
yeah, it's pretty common.
Get paid more over time. And they're leaving the country. They're just happy to go spend their life, not because of politics or anything, but they just wanted to leave anyways. So now we have a different source of taxable income in the years that they get them from liquidating their shares as they get paid out. So there's a lot of things that if you're young and still watching for some reason, things are going to come up, right? You're going to sell assets or businesses or whatever.
Yep, for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's all I had for that one.
So what about your brackets though? So do you have other brackets you want to share, or just
I was trying to use
focusing there?
I wanted to use the example just so as you're looking at that slide, you know what you're seeing there. So I went to the extreme so you could see there's a 42.9% difference.
Yeah.
But if you're one of those, it's like, well, I'm like a 22% bracket person now, and I'd like to save enough to where I could live on more when I retire. You could go from the 22 over to like the 24 and see, well, there's a 2.6% difference in the dollars I'll get to put in my pocket by using a Roth IRA. It's still 2.6%. So.
But you could flip that on its head, and that's where, if you flip it on its head and you say, okay, right this second you're in this crazy high tax bracket, you're potentially hoping to retire in a lower tax bracket, then you have the idea of putting money in the IRA. That's always the argument there for most people. It's like, well, you're going to retire in a lower bracket. Why not do the pre-tax accounts now? People like Dave Ramsey. He's like, well, hey, still do the Roth. And to be honest with you, there's certain things that I totally agree with him on, and that is one of them. And the reason being, I've done, multiple scenarios on this before, but today I really want to keep it simplified. Take you to Charlie Parker. Charlie Parker has $100,000 in income, born in 1990. He's going to retire at age 67. So, he's got a little ways till retirement. He's just starting to save right this second. He's going to put $20,000 into his 401k. He's going to get a 4% match. Match will be pre-tax. That's a new one.
Oh, that's not, yeah.
There is the option now to put, Roth 401k match as well. Not all 401ks are complying to that yet, so it may not be out there, but that's something to think about because that's a whole nother level to all of this. But generally speaking, I mean, it's if you go apples to apples, Charlie Parker here is going to put money in first to his pre-tax account. At 67, he's going to retire with 86% probability of success. We like to see, in the mid 80s is excellent. That's especially at his age right this second. That's a phenomenal probability that we're looking at. He's projected to have, not adjusting for inflation or anything, but at the end of life, $4.126 million remaining. But what happens if Charlie says, you know what, I'm going to save to the Roth 401k? I think you should probably already know, what's going to happen here. But in this scenario, now he has a 95% probability of success and $5.456 million at the end of life.
I love these examples, yeah.
And it makes total sense in this scenario. And why is that? Well, because instead of having any tax liability ever, he can live on this money and he can draw less on his income or draw less from his accounts later on in life because there's no tax liability. If you draw $60,000 a year out of your IRA account, well, guess what? If you need $60,000, you're going to have to actually draw more than the 60 to pay the tax liability. In Charlie's scenario here, if you're drawing from the Roth IRA and you need 60, you only have to draw 60 because it's all tax-free dollars. Now, the issue I found in kind of running these scenarios and looking at what Roth versus IRA, what's going to be the best. What I have found in really breaking it all down and the just simple rule, we generally don't use the rule of thumb with things because there's so many variables, but the rule of thumb that I've truly found, if you have tons of discretionary income on the side and you're not saving your dollars there with that, it's just kind of getting wasted, then in a sense, it makes sense just to put the money in the Roth and let it be. Because there's the argument here that if you put it in pre-tax dollars, that's great. You're in a 37% tax bracket. Well, guess what? If you put a ton of money in pre-tax, you're going to save that 37%. That's awesome. That's a huge tax savings. What are you doing with the tax savings? If that's just getting blown at, the bar or at Starbucks and all these random places, well, then just put it in the Roth. But if you're actually going to save the pre-tax dollars, that's where potentially, or if you're actually going to save the tax savings. So if you save, let's just say $10,000 in taxes, if you're going to save those dollars and invest those, potentially there's the argument to look at the pre-tax and at least consider it. We did a breakdown of that one time on another video, and I actually showed where, generally speaking, the Roth is still going to be a better win for you. But it could come out a little bit different if you're saving those additional dollars, because now you're saving a lot more money. But I see too many people that just say, well, Roth or pre-tax. Well, if you do a pre-tax, you better save the extra dollars. That's my rule there.
Kind of that's his sticking point there. I've heard that numerous times around the office.
But it only makes sense. Like, it's like your Roth is always going to win. You can see it right here. But if you save the additional dollars from your tax savings, potentially you could find some strategy there.
Do you think they will ever tax Roth money?
I think that that's going to be a hard thing to pass, because you've got how many people now? Where was it at? Was it in the COVID Relief Act? I guess you can say that on YouTube without the algorithm throwing you off now. I don't know.
Yeah,
you remember that in 2020? Like, they were like, if you mention that, you'll get canceled. But there was it the Secure Act where they slipped it in, where the backdoor Roth was a huge deal? It was literally this hidden little
one.
Context. So originally with the backdoor Roth IRA, if you were looking to do a backdoor Roth IRA, there was the concern of, I can't remember the exact term, but basically it was, if you were to put the money in the IRA, convert it immediately to Roth, well, then basically it's meant as though you're using the Roth IRA, you're just using a workaround. And so there was this idea where you needed to wait, let's say, a year to then show, hey, you know what? I intended to put it in the IRA, and then I decided, you know what? I'm going to do a Roth conversion later. And it was a step something. I can't remember the exact term.
I forget the term because it got shot down so quick.
Yeah, but with the Secure Act, what ended up coming out, I think it was the Secure Act, and it was in there. It actually said there was something slipped in there where it was like, you can just do the conversion. And it was simplifying the process to basically allow people, Congress, who were the ones who were passing this, to say, hey, we make a lot of money. We can do the backdoor Roth IRA and not have to worry about letting it sit and doing all these things. So I say that all to say, you have a lot of people fighting for you because they also want that tax benefit. And so for that to go away, I know there's always the talk, well, what happens if they start to tax my Roth IRA? I don't know if they can go back and do that legally.
No,
there's not legal.
The only thing they came close to was having a transaction tax, which would have applied to Roth IRAs. And it was like a nickel for every $1,000 of positions you traded through. Yeah, I think it was in the same bill. No, this was when Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, they were in the lead for whatever election that was, and they started proposing that, and all of a sudden, whoop, no longer in the lead, because that's essentially a Roth IRA tax, and that's what the media picked it up as. They're like, they're going to tax your retirement. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Work.
Yeah, I don't know where it's going to go. I just don't see. Nobody has even really address that significantly. There's a lot of talk and rumors, but a lot of these people that are, trying to be fear mongers. Also, on the same side of that, though, the other side of it is like, I've seen it sold so many times by advisors. You have to do the Roth IRA because look at the tax rates. Here's the tax rates. We're in a historical low tax rate. They're going to be higher taxes for you in retirement regardless. That's always been like this spin. To me, we don't know that. We can talk about it, we can discuss things, but we're not here to try to sell you on any kind of nonsense fear of, well, what may be, because what may be may not be.
Well, and even if it is, I believe the tax rates will be a little bit higher at my retirement. I don't think they'll be a lot higher. I just think they will be higher than where they are now. But instead of just being like, oh my God, you better use the Roth. Well, how much higher? Because then that spread, that sheet we just showed, it still may make sense to use the Roth, or go that way. So, or
the pre-tax, yeah.
Yeah, now if you're saying you think tax rates, your federal tax rate will be 10% higher, all right, well now that's a real fear that you might want to address. But if you think it's going to be 2% higher, that's why I don't like the commercials with the other advisors. They're like, tax rates are at historic lows. Like, okay, well, how does that affect me? Like,
yeah.
Let's get to it.
Well, and just kind of add one more layer of all of this. So many people look at retirement and they say, okay, you know what? I'm going to retire at age 55. If you retire at 55 and your income's going to be low and you have a really, low brokerage, you all right?
Yeah, it's
You have a large brokerage account, there might be like some huge opportunity for you to do a lot of conversions. But for the person who's like, I'm going to retire at 65 and, they're looking to take Social Security before too long, they're going to have RMDs before too long, your runway for doing a lot of Roth conversions is quite limited compared to the person that retired super early. And so that in itself can play a big factor in what you're doing there. So the people that are just shoving all of their money in pre-tax trying to save today, if you're retiring early and have a bridge account, maybe you can have some opportunity to convert at a certain point. But if you're retiring late in life, you really want to start considering the Roth, because it's hard to push all those dollars over fast as possible, as you get, in those late retirement years.
now I get to finish with the joke.
All right.
I can't drink the rest of this, by the way.
It's okay.
Tea with.
So you're not going to do a flip for me.
Not
Well,
doing
you have something in there. So.
I actually have, yeah. All right. I have thought about this while you were talking about whatever we were talking about.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah.
What is the difference?
Does not make the cut.
Can't do it.
Nope, not at all. Oh, no. Last night I was sitting there and my daughter, my oldest, my wife said if she gets a high score on the test, she can get another fish. She had a fish and it died. Oh. And she was like, what kind of fish? And she was like, anything under $10. She's like, well, can I get, what do they call them? Like the algae eater. And I was like, and she was like, I don't think I want an algae eater. She said, it's only got 3.7 stars. And I'm like, how are you rating that? I said, you know why it only has 3.7 stars? Because it sucked.
Dad joke on the fly, by the way.
I did it.
Yeah.
I told her that last night. Yeah. And my wife was rolling. She was like, wow, that was good.
That's a good one because
Thank you.
it came in the moment. That